Welcome back, everybody. So we're going to be talking about parking the school bus or the mailbox on top of your slide, also known as an enclosed emitter optic, but today in the way of the Swampfox Kraken. Over the past couple of years, I've had the chance to run several Swampfox optics, everything from some of their pistol red dots to their magnified LPVOs and more long-range precision style scopes. Now, I've always found them to be a very good budget-friendly option in that kind of moderate or like mid-tier, not quite duty optic yet, but a very good solid competition EDC style of optic, whether it's their magnified optics or their red dots. And since this optic is called the Kraken, you know I had to do this to you.
Release the Kraken!
All right, sometimes you gotta throw that in there. Let's get right to the performance. So I have several hundred rounds on this Kraken right here on this 17 MOS because it does come with a specific plate to mount your Kraken directly to your MOS slide. And we're gonna talk more about that footprint here in just a minute. Personally, I got the green dot version in 3 MOA because it seems to be out in the Arizona desert. Green just picks up better. And you can look up the scientific research between how much your eye can pick up on a light spectrum between the green and the red. But green just works quite well for me, my eyes, and the astigmatism that I do have. From the first pull of the trigger, like I said, it was a little different, a little odd, not anything bad. I just had to get used to it. So I did a couple of practice draws out there just to get used to the Glock angles again and just see through that glass and how I was picking up the dot. And once I was picking it up really clean, I figured, YOLO, let's just run some drills and see how this goes. Now, from that first bill drill, I pulled the trigger and you can even kind of see me stutter a little bit. And it's because I just noticed the difference in the reciprocation of the slide and kind of where that weight was distributing and how that slide was feeling as it reciprocated. Again, it was nothing in a bad way. You just had to get used to how the system was running with this optic on it and the way it distributed the weight. I did have some pretty good flubs out there in the magazine exchanges just because it had been a while since I'd ran those mags with those extensions, which always test proof your gear and make sure you're proficient with it when you change something, especially if you're adding like an inch to the length of your magazines, because that does make a difference. Inches do matter. But once I got that all out of my system, I just started to run it clean and smooth, and I actually got like one of my better or a really good time on just a standard build drill. Out on the range on an extremely bright Arizona sunny day, the glass was pretty clear. There is going to be a slight kind of off bluish hue to it, but that is extremely common with pretty much any optic with all of the multi-coatings that go on there, because those coatings not only help with battery life, but anti-reflective, anti-scratch, anti-fog, all of the good stuff you want on a piece of glass for a red dot. So you will notice a minimal amount of color change. There are very few optics out there that have zero, and most of them have terrible battery life. Now, looking through that glass, you will notice a very minimal amount of magnification difference between your naked eye and looking through both pieces of glass on this thing. That's extremely common, it's very normal, and I think almost every single pistol red dot, especially enclosed ones, have that at least up in the corners. So that is nothing odd or completely unrealistic when it comes to micro pistol optics. I will say the one thing that did get me as I was pressing this thing out and drawing this and doing some drills was, until I got used to it, the first thing that came to my mind was, man, that battery compartment is big, right? So that big knob on the side is the battery compartment, but it's like any other optic or magnified optic or LPVO or anything. Once you come up a few times, you get used to it and everything else begins to go away and you start to stay target focused and you start to look right through that optic or the tube or whatever it is. So that's pretty normal, but I thought that was just a little bit funny. When it comes to the performance of that LED out there, that is extremely important. So I've talked to a couple of different optic manufacturers at this point. So when it comes to the choice of an LED, that's going to have a lot to do with the battery life, of course, along with the size of the battery that goes in there. Now, what that does is it gives you a different pulse rate or a frequency, and we like to call it refresh rate, so people, it's kind of something they understand. But basically all lights kind of have a pulse or a phasing or a blinking, whatever you want to call it. Now, the faster that is, the more battery drain you get, but the slower it is, the more it will appear to the human eye that that LED is blinking as you begin to move your optic around. So say this is out and you're breathing hard and you're moving like this with a kind of a slower pulse rate LED that may give you a longer battery life, it will appear that as you look through this, that LED is blinking because your human eye is now able to see it. I'm happy to say that this has a very strong LED in it, and they've chosen one with that higher pulse rate. So even moving the dot around like this, it's gonna seem like a clear, crisp, linear dot. You're not gonna see blinking or phasing or any of that stuff when it comes to the Kraken. So the overall range performance was solid, but we have got to talk about the specs because that is extremely important when it comes to talking about picking an optic for your pistol or your rifle. I am, however, curious how many of you are thinking about parking the school bus or the mailbox on your Glock or any other pistol, because it seems to be it's either a love or a hate relationship when it comes to the enclosed emitter optics due to the size. So if you're thinking about it, on the fence, or you've already gone enclosed, I want to know in the comments down below. Let's get into the basic specs on this thing. This is going to be made out of 7075 aluminum. That is the good stuff. That is what you want your optics made out of. Multi-coated glass. There is sacrificial lenses in there, so if you break the outer lens, it's still going to be gas purged inside. The LED is still going to work, and you are still going to be able to run it. It's 1 MOA adjustments for a total of 45 on windage and 45 on the elevation. You can get it in green or red. It comes in a 3 MOA, 10 illumination settings, 2 for my dirty civilians or my operators out there running night vision, shake awake, and they say a 2-year real battery life with a 2032 battery. Now, I like the way they do their battery life, because if you think any other optic company is having somebody sit there for 5 years or 50,000 hours while they watch that LED drain, you're lying to yourself. It's a mathematical calculation they're using on that in the most perfect of elemental conditions to achieve 50,000 hours, which is why they never say it is a definitive. So telling me it's 2 years and it's easy to change is better than saying up to 50,000 hours at the lowest setting and the most optimal conditions outside. So think about that. 50,000 hours is kind of a fake number. It is IPX7 rated, which means waterproof, dustproof, all that stuff, 1 meter of water for like 30 minutes or an hour. So basically, if you're underwater with your gear for that long and you're not wearing a rebreather or a scuba tank, you've got bigger things to worry about than when your body floats to the surface if your optic is still gonna work. It is G-force tested to 1500 Gs. It's got some big buttons on the side, which I like for ease of adjustment, and they were not easily activated on accident. That is also a good thing. Weighs 2.5 ounces, comes with an MOS plate for your direct mount to your Glock style slides, and it also comes with an RMR 2 Kraken mounting plate if you have an RMR milled slide. It will not work with every single RMR cut out there, but it should get you rolling on a lot of RMR cuts. Now, for the rest of my spec army out there, where are my music lovers? All right, make sure you let me know what type of music you want to see on that next spec sheet. So we're going to get into the good, the bad, and the ugly, because nothing's all peaches and cream here. Nobody gets a pass. Now, I like the Swampfox crew. I am friends with those people. I've done a bunch of work with their optics, but that doesn't make me hold back on anything. Just because I know them and they send product doesn't mean they get a pass. So there are a couple things we're going to talk about when it comes to the Kraken. One, it's big. It's bigger than some of the other stuff out there, and it's smaller than some stuff out there. So it's kind of similar to the size of a Steiner, slightly bigger, makes the Steiner look kind of small, but then more in that Acro size point. And I think the Acro right now is one of the larger enclosed ones out there in the market. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it's kind of in between those two, minus the big honking battery thing on the side, which kind of makes it easier to change batteries, but it's a big compartment. I guess the big con for me, even though it does come with an RMR2 Kraken plate, is it's got a proprietary footprint. So every time I hear proprietary footprint, it makes my heart sink, because I just wish the community could get together and just go with a mounting pattern like RMR, Acro, something like that, because they're already out there. They're so prevalent. So when I see another footprint out in the market, and I know that that plate is not going to work with everybody's RMR milled slide, it just gives me pause. So if you carry a Glock, it's got an MOS plate for it that will screw right onto your Glock, just like this one does here, and it will fit perfect. Otherwise, you've got to put a plate on your RMR milled slide, and then it's going to be taller. So It won't fit everything, but I know it fits several of my slides. So that always gives me pause, because I wish the industry would just get 1 or 2 mounting platforms and just go with it. And then when it comes to the durability of the Kraken, there's plenty of videos of people dropping these and throwing these and all that good stuff. And I'm not going to do that because I need to keep this one for long-term testing. Is it as durable as an Acro? I can tell you right now, absolutely not. This was not built the way the Acro was. This was not meant to be a combat optic like the Acro is. This is much more of a competition, carry, maybe duty, don't know yet. We'll see how time works out. But there are plenty of videos of people dropping these, banging these things around, all that good stuff, and them still working just fine. But optics that cost almost 2 to 3 times as much, that were specifically built to withstand the rigors of combat, are generally not going to be this cheap. So always bear that in mind when you're comparing something. Pick the appropriate comparison other. But the good thing is, if you break it, they got the 50,000 round guarantee, and you just get a new one. There is also a lot of good stuff when it comes to the Kraken as well. It's made out of 70-75 aluminum, which is the good stuff. Good LED, sacrificial lenses, comes with an MOS plate. Overall seems to run very, very well, and it seems to be very durable, at least from all of the people that I've seen dropping them so far. Tested to 1500 Gs, all that good stuff. So the price point as well, I looked at it today as of filming this video, and you can get them for like $287 or $297, something like that. So being sub $300 for what seems to be a very good, durable, enclosed emitter optic is definitely a big positive. So overall, when it comes to the Kraken right here, all I have to say is,
release the Kraken.
I got you twice on that one, didn't I? So I'll have more videos coming out on all of the different enclosed emitter optics, from the MPS, the Acro, the Holosun EPS stuff. Iridian's coming out with a new one. C&H Precision's coming out with one. So we'll kind of compare and contrast those and do side-by-sides with all of them once the time is right. Make sure you like, share, subscribe down below, because all of that is a huge help to the channel. It's a huge help to the 2A community, and it just helps spread our message out there. Keep doing it out on the range. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
Release the Kraken.
I got you 3 times now. I will see you all on the next one.